If you live in Houston, you've probably seen the videos. Shaky phones hovering over muddy water, faces lit by cold blue screens, captions whispering, another one found near the bayou. What began as a few local posts has exploded across TikTok, Instagram, and Reddit. A storm of panic whispering that a serial killer is stalking Houston's bayous. But what's real and what's just viral fear? Tonight, we dig into how tragedy, rumor, and algorithms collided to create a nationwide frenzy. Stay till the end, because the truth behind this panic might be even darker than the rumor itself. The first wave of videos hit like wildfire. TikTok feeds were flooded with clips of flashing police lights near bridges, with captions like "Another body found in Houston." Local creators became overnight reporters, filming from behind yellow tape, speculating who might be next. In group chats, friends forwarded screenshots with a trembling question mark. Is this real? Within 48 hours, the story had left Houston and was everywhere. On Reddit, on Twitter, on news channels trying to make sense of what was happening. Those first discoveries, bodies recovered near the city's bayous, became the seed for 1,000 theories. Each video added new evidence, real or imagined. Same waterline, same part of town, same time of day. Users began saying what no one wanted to hear. There's a serial killer in Houston. But buried beneath the chaos was the uncomfortable truth. Not every recovery pointed to foul play. Still, TikTok didn't wait for official word. The algorithm wanted drama, and the audience gave it millions of views. News reporters tried to slow the panic. Police held press conferences saying, "There's no confirmed serial killer," but their calm tone was no match for viral anxiety. The more they asked people to stop speculating, the more creators posted follow-ups titled, "They're hiding something." When people don't get answers fast enough, they start to fill the silence. And that silence echoed across Houston's digital streets. Soon, every shadow on camera became a clue. A jacket floating in water became proof. A random figure walking near the bayou turned into a suspect. TikTokers stitched these fragments together with eerie background music and blood-red captions. For viewers scrolling late at night, the lines between fact and fiction blurred completely. Fear became entertainment, and entertainment became fuel for more fear. Residents began to panic offline, too. People stopped jogging near the bayous. Parents called their kids earlier, asking them not to go out after dark. What had started as grief and tragedy transformed into a citywide fear, one that wasn't just about danger in the streets, but about not knowing what to believe anymore. And that's where our story begins, in the uneasy space between truth and trending. In the next scene, we'll dive into how the TikTok panic grew from whispers to wildfire, and how everyday people accidentally helped the rumor spiral out of control. The panic didn't start in newsrooms. It started in living rooms, in small neighborhoods where whispers turned into warnings. Houston's bayous, once calm and ordinary, suddenly felt haunted. People shared posts of missing friends, of shadows caught on CCTV, of ripples moving across the dark water at night. Each new clip claimed to show the same story, a silent figure watching from the trees, a new pattern forming in plain sight. Fear spread faster than any official statement could ever catch up. On TikTok, the algorithm did the rest. Videos about the Houston serial killer flooded For You pages worldwide. Some creators spoke with genuine concern, others with obvious thrill, but all of them used the same keywords: bodies, bayou, missing, unsolved. The repetition made the story sound real. One user whispered, "It's always near the same bridge." Another posted a map full of red pins, claiming it showed a killer's trail. The clip reached millions before anyone could verify a single fact. Local residents couldn't escape the dread. Even people who never used TikTok began hearing fragments of the story at work, in grocery stores, at gas stations. Friends warned each other not to go out after dark. In one viral video, a woman tearfully said, "My brother goes jogging by that bayou every morning. I told him not to go." Her fear was honest, and honesty made the story more powerful. The algorithm rewarded emotion, not accuracy. Police tried to calm things down, saying there was no evidence of a serial killer. But the more they spoke, the less people listened. On social media, silence means guilt. Every no comment became, "They're hiding something." Every official denial sounded like a cover-up. People wanted certainty, And in the absence of proof, they built their own truth from shadows and captions. Creators from outside Houston joined in. They compared the city's panic to old true crime cases, to legends of urban killers and river ghosts. They overlaid creepy music, used black and white filters, and spoke as if narrating a Netflix documentary. The line between journalism and horror storytelling vanished overnight. By the time major news outlets caught up, the TikTok version of events had already become its own reality. This was no longer about facts. It was about fear, curiosity, and content. People were scrolling through tragedy like it was a thriller series. Each new body found was just another episode. And as millions of viewers watched, liked, and shared, one truth became undeniable. The story had grown too big for the city to contain. As the days passed, Houston began to feel like a city under quiet siege. Every conversation started with the same words. "Did you hear about the new one?" The rumor had grown legs, and it was running faster than the truth could chase it. In coffee shops and college hallways, people lowered their voices as if the killer might be sitting right beside them. The fear was everywhere, not loud, not screaming, but steady and suffocating, like the humid Texas air before a storm. One night, a TikTok live went viral, a shaky video of flashing lights near the Buffalo Bayou. The sound of sirens cutting through the night. The girl behind the camera whispered, "They found another one." Thousands joined the live within minutes. Comments flew, "Oh my God, it's real. I knew it." No one knew who the victim was, but that didn't matter. What mattered was the story and how real it felt. For viewers, the fear was personal now. By morning, that live had been reposted hundreds of times. Creators dissected every frame, zooming in on officers' faces, on blurred shapes behind trees, claiming to see a pattern no one else noticed. Reddit threads titled "Houston Serial Killer Timeline" appeared with maps, theories, and timelines drawn by strangers trying to connect invisible dots. The internet had become a crime board, and everyone was a detective. But beneath the hysteria, there was something tragic. Because real families were grieving. Each body found wasn't content. It was someone's son, someone's friend, someone's brother. Yet in the storm of speculation, the humanity vanished. Comment sections filled with wild guesses, cruel jokes, and fake sightings. What began as curiosity was now exploitation, and no one seemed to notice the line they had crossed. Reporters tried again to calm the fire. The police said the drownings appeared accidental, that there was no serial killer, just coincidence. But by then, people didn't want to hear coincidence. They wanted a villain. They wanted a face for their fear. And so, even without evidence, they created one. A faceless shadow said to roam the water at night. And in a way, that's what made this story terrifying. Because maybe there wasn't a killer out there. Maybe the real danger was something else. The way panic spreads when fear meets technology. The way millions of hearts can believe a lie, just because it fits the mood of the night. By the end of that week, the story had escaped TikTok and entered the real world completely. Strangers began showing up near the bayous at night, filming themselves searching for clues. They carried flashlights and phones, walking into the same dark trails where the alleged victims were found. They wanted to be the first to capture the next viral video, the next proof that would make them famous overnight. What no one realized was that their search for answers was turning the rumor into a living thing, something feeding on attention, growing stronger with every view. Local police were exhausted. Every hour they received new tips from people online. Grainy videos, blurry screenshots, whispers about suspicious cars. The truth was buried under a mountain of noise. One officer even admitted off camera, "Half the calls we get are about TikTok videos." Yet when police tried to stop people from interfering, it only fueled more paranoia. Creators said, "They're stopping us from finding the truth." The distrust deepened, and the panic tightened its grip on Houston like a fog that wouldn't lift. In one viral video, a woman sobbed as she described hearing screams by the bayou. Her voice trembled, her tears felt raw, and for millions watching, that emotion was enough. No one asked for verification. No one checked local reports. They simply believed. Fear, it seemed, didn't need proof. It only needed passion. Within hours, her video was everywhere, stitched, shared, and dramatized with eerie background music. People began calling her the Bayou Witness, a name that sounded ripped straight out of a thriller. Meanwhile, those actually living near the area grew anxious and angry. They watched as their neighborhoods turned into horror attractions. News vans parked by their homes, influencers filmed on private property, and rumors about missing children began to swirl, even when no such cases existed. The fear had mutated into chaos, a living storm that didn't care who it consumed. But behind the screens, real heartbreak still pulsed quietly. Families of the deceased pleaded with the public to stop using their tragedies for clout. They said their loved ones deserve peace, not views. Yet even their voices got drowned in the noise. The internet wasn't listening anymore. It was watching, always watching, hungry for the next twist, the next name, the next fear. And as night fell over Houston again, the line between rumor and reality finally blurred beyond recognition. No one knew what was true anymore. All they knew was that something, or someone out there was keeping them awake at night. The streets of Houston were no longer the same. Every bridge, every quiet riverbank had become a landmark of fear. News helicopters hovered above the city like vultures, while online, the word killer trended beside the names of real people. People who had simply drowned, whose stories had been twisted into something monstrous. The rumor had become bigger than life. It didn't need truth anymore. It only needed belief. Late one night, a TikTok went viral showing a man standing near the waterline, motionless, under a flickering streetlight. The caption read, "This is him." No one knew who posted it first, but by morning, the man's blurry silhouette had been seen by millions. The comments section exploded. Some prayed, some mocked, others demanded justice. Within hours, people were sharing the man's supposed name, address, even his workplace. But when police tracked him down, they found he was just a homeless man trying to stay warm. His face had become the villain in a story he never even knew existed. That moment changed everything. For the first time, the panic had hurt someone innocent. Yet, instead of slowing down, the hysteria grew. People began claiming to have seen the same man near different bayous, in different neighborhoods, even in different cities. His image became a ghost, haunting feeds, spreading faster than facts. Houston's streets became a stage, and every shadow looked like the killer the internet had imagined. In schools, students whispered about friends who vanished. In offices, workers avoided walking to their cars alone. Gas stations stayed busy past midnight, with people too afraid to go home in the dark. The fear was contagious, seeping into every corner of life. And yet there was something disturbingly addictive about it. People couldn't stop scrolling. They didn't want to miss the next update, the next body, the next twist. Some creators began to question it. One journalist posted a long video saying, "We're the reason this rumor won't die. We turned grief into views." Her words struck a nerve, and she received hate for it. Viewers accused her of being paid off, of protecting the killer. The truth was no longer welcome. The internet had made up its mind, and anyone who tried to tell otherwise became the enemy. And while all this unfolded, the real tragedy went unnoticed. Behind the cameras and comment sections, a few grieving families quietly planned funerals, still waiting for closure, not from a serial killer, but from the storm of lies that had stolen their peace. Days turned into weeks, and the panic refused to die. The words, "Houston serial killer," had become a brand. Hashtags with millions of views, thumbnails with red circles and arrows, dramatic voiceovers echoing across TikTok and YouTube. What had started as concern was now a global obsession. People from other states began claiming to see copycat patterns in their own towns. Fear had gone viral, and Houston was its unwilling capital. In the middle of the chaos, a new video surfaced, grainy footage showing a man dragging something heavy near the edge of a bayou. The caption read, "Caught on camera, the killer at work." Within hours, it was everywhere. News anchors debated its authenticity. Reddit threads analyzed the man's movements, frame by frame, and TikTok detectives created slow-motion edits set to haunting music. But when investigators looked into it, the truth shattered the illusion. It was staged. The clip was part of a short film someone had uploaded months ago. Yet by the time the truth came out, the lie had already spread beyond repair. That moment proved what many feared, that the internet didn't care about facts anymore. What mattered was engagement. Fear was profitable. Tragedy sold better than truth. Influencers who had never set foot in Houston were now posting exclusive updates, pretending to interview locals, while real Houstonians watched in disbelief as their pain became global entertainment. The line between empathy and exploitation had vanished completely. Meanwhile, the police department grew desperate to regain control. Press conferences were streamed live, with officers repeating the same words, "There is no serial killer." But even as they spoke, comments scrolled faster than their sentences. "They're lying. They're hiding something. It's bigger than they say." It was as if the city was speaking two different languages, one grounded in reality, the other powered by emotion. And the emotional one was winning. For the people living near the bayous, life became unbearable. They could no longer walk outside without being filmed. Reporters camped outside homes asking neighbors about the murders. Teenagers began daring each other to visit the killers' spots at night for social media clout. The city wasn't just afraid anymore, it was tired, invaded, and stripped of its dignity by the very platforms that promised to connect it. And as yet another night fell over Houston, the city's skyline glowed faintly through a thick fog. Somewhere by the bayou, the water rippled under the streetlights, silent, innocent, and misunderstood. The rumor had started with the truth, but now it had swallowed the truth whole. By now, the Houston serial killer panic had evolved into something far beyond local fear. It was a global performance. Millions of people around the world were now following the case, checking updates as if watching a crime series unfold in real time. True crime channels released dramatic thumbnails with screaming headlines, each promising to reveal the truth behind the mystery. But no one was closer to the truth, because the story everyone was chasing didn't exist the way they thought it did. In the middle of this storm stood real people, parents, friends, and siblings of the men whose bodies had been found in the water. They begged the public to stop spreading false stories, to let them grieve in peace. But their pleas were drowned in noise. Some users even accused the victims' families of covering up evidence. One mother said through tears, "They turned my son's death into entertainment." Her video received sympathy, but it was quickly buried under the next viral post, another sighting, another blurry clip, another lie. Offline, the damage was spreading. People had started reporting strangers for simply walking alone near the water. Innocent joggers were followed, filmed, and harassed. One man was detained after being mistaken for the so-called bayou killer, his face plastered across TikTok before he was even questioned. Though he was released the same night, his name would never truly recover, because the internet rarely apologizes. It just moves on to the next victim. A local journalist named Erica decided she couldn't watch silently anymore. She started a series called Panic in the Bayou, aiming to separate rumor from reality. Her tone was calm, her research precise, but her comments filled with hate. People accused her of being paid by the police or protecting the killer. The irony was brutal. The one voice trying to bring clarity was now being silenced by the very panic she was fighting against. At this point, even the algorithms began to notice the fatigue. Views dropped slightly, but the most extreme creators kept pushing harder, inventing new clues, even using AI-generated photos to keep the story alive. It didn't matter if people believed anymore. What mattered was keeping their attention. The internet had already tasted blood, not from a killer, but from chaos itself. And deep down, Houston's silence grew heavier. The city was no longer terrified of a murderer. It was terrified of itself, of what fear could make people do, say, and believe. Somewhere in that reflection, a darker truth was emerging. Maybe the real monster was never by the bayou. Maybe it was on our screens all along. The city had grown quieter, but not calmer. The streets were heavy with unease, like Houston was holding its breath, waiting for something that never came. People didn't talk about the killer as much anymore, but they still looked over their shoulders when they walked near the bayou. The rumor had faded from headlines, but it hadn't died. It had simply sunk deeper, into the subconscious of a city that no longer trusted its own safety, online. Though the storm still brewed in smaller corners. The hashtag #Houston serial killer had become a ghost tag. Not trending, but never gone. People kept posting updates, recycling old footage with new captions, creating endless loops of fear. Each repost reopened the wound. Each video reminded Houston of the panic it couldn't erase. The truth had been buried under layers of storytelling, and the line between fiction and fact was now impossible to trace. Erica, the journalist who had tried to calm the hysteria, kept digging. She interviewed medical examiners, local residents, and officers, building a clear picture of what had really happened. A tragic series of drownings, some under the influence, some purely accidental. But her work barely reached the people who needed it most. Her calm tone couldn't compete with the thrill of fear. The algorithm didn't reward reason, it rewarded adrenaline. In one haunting post, a creator uploaded a mashup of every body found clip, set to dramatic music, claiming, "The truth was never revealed." The video racked up millions of views in hours. The comment section was a graveyard of emotions, some angry, some scared, some admitting they missed the excitement of when the panic was at its peak. That was the cruelest part of all. People had become addicted to fear. When it faded, they felt empty. But behind the screens, life moved on. The families still grieved quietly, their losses now overshadowed by the myth that had stolen their names. The police stopped giving statements. Reporters stopped visiting the bayou. Only the hum of traffic and the whisper of water remained. Houston's nights became eerily normal again, but a strange emptiness lingered, like the calm after a storm that left everything standing, yet somehow broken. And somewhere online, a single video appeared, Erica standing by the bayou, looking into the water, saying softly, "There was never a killer here." But there was a story, and we all helped tell it. Her words hung heavy, echoing across the digital void. Because in the end, maybe it wasn't about what happened in Houston, but what we did when fear became a trend. Weeks later, Houston seemed to have returned to its ordinary rhythm. People back to work, traffic flowing, laughter slowly creeping back into the parks. But beneath the calm, the city carried invisible scars. Everyone remembered those nights. The whispers, the sirens, the panic. Even though the rumor had faded, it had left behind something more dangerous than fear: distrust. People no longer believed in official reports, no longer trusted what they read, no longer knew how to separate truth from trend. Erica continued her quiet fight against misinformation. She released a documentary showing how the panic began, how one TikTok became a movement, and how small lies snowballed into a national obsession. The documentary went viral, not because it was thrilling, but because it held up a mirror. People saw themselves in it, the comments they left, the videos they shared, the moments they chose emotion over logic. It wasn't a horror story about a killer anymore. It was a horror story about us. Meanwhile, the families of the victims began speaking together for the first time. They held a vigil by the bayou, candles flickering in the soft wind, each flame representing a life lost, not to a murderer, but to the silence and confusion of an online world that never waited for facts. There were no hashtags this time, no filters, no captions, just tears and soft prayers under the dim Houston sky. Yet even there, away from the internet, a few onlookers pulled out their phones. They filmed the vigil, posted it online with dramatic captions like, "The victims remembered, justice still unknown." The cycle tried to start again. It was as if the internet didn't know how to let go, as if it needed fear to feel alive. But this time people noticed. In the comments, viewers pushed back, "Stop using their pain. Let them rest." For the first time, the tide began to turn. The same platforms that once fueled hysteria began to host conversations about responsibility, how easily we amplify fear, how algorithms turn grief into entertainment. TikTok creators started apologizing for the harm their videos caused. Some deleted their old posts, admitting they got caught up in the chaos. Others stayed silent, their accounts ghost towns now, reminders of the panic that once consumed a city. And as the last candle burned out by the water, Houston finally exhaled. The bayou was calm again, its surface reflecting the streetlights like scattered stars. The fear had drifted away, but the memory lingered, a warning carved into the city's heart. Because now everyone knew. The next rumor could start just as easily, and next time it might not be a lie. Months later, the Houston serial killer story existed only as a shadow, a cautionary tale whispered in online forums and journalism classes. The videos that once ruled TikTok were gone, deleted, or buried beneath new trends. But the digital footprints remained, fragments of panic preserved forever in comment sections and archived clips. Every so often, a random user would stumble upon an old post. not realizing it was part of a ghost story, one we all helped tell. Erica's documentary continued to circulate, this time in classrooms and community meetings. It became more than a story about Houston. It became a mirror held up to society's face. People began asking the hard questions. When does curiosity become cruelty? When does awareness turn into obsession? The panic that once divided Houston was now teaching others the cost of viral fear. But the answer that haunted everyone was simpler and sadder. It never had to happen at all. Late one night, Erica visited the bayou one last time. The air was still, the city's lights reflecting softly on the water. She looked around. No reporters, no police, no curious crowds. Just silence. The same silence that had been filled months ago with screams, rumors, and lies. She pressed record on her phone and whispered, "The truth was never missing. We just stopped looking for it." Then she turned off the camera, dropped a white flower into the water, and walked away. Across Houston, the fear had turned into reflection. People who once spread videos now avoided sharing anything without checking first. The local police department started workshops about misinformation, teaching citizens how to recognize fake news. Schools discussed the TikTok panic in assemblies, warning students that one post can light a fire no one can put out. Slowly, the city began to heal, but not forget. Because forgetting would mean risking the same mistake again. And somewhere, deep within the endless scroll of TikTok, the algorithm waited, quiet, patient, and hungry. It didn't care about truth or lies, only engagement. It was ready for the next panic, the next name, the next wave of fear. And maybe that's what made this story so haunting, the realization that we built the monster ourselves, and it still lives inside every glowing screen. That's the story of the Houston serial killer panic, not a tale of murder, but of mass illusion, of a city caught between grief and the internet's thirst for shock. Because sometimes the scariest stories aren't the ones that happen in the dark. They're the ones we create when the whole world is watching. If you made it this far, you've seen how easily truth can drown in the noise of the internet, how fear spreads faster than facts, and how pain can become entertainment in seconds. Houston didn't just survive a rumor, it survived us. So before you share the next shocking video, before you type that next comment, take a breath and ask yourself, am I spreading truth or feeding another panic? Because next time the city and those viral clips could be yours, and maybe next time, the monster won't be imaginary. If you want more stories that reveal the truth behind the fear, hit subscribe. Turn on the bell icon and join me next time where we uncover another mystery the internet tried to twist. Until then, stay curious, stay cautious.